I just got back from a lovely, lovely walk around my village. I had breakfast and I looked outside and it was so beautifully sunny. I just wanted to get out for a walk. And it was warm and peaceful and lovely. I remember mentioning in an earlier video that when my whole adventure here in Japan is all done and dusted and I'm looking back on my time in Japan and I'm thinking back on the good times, I genuinely think that it's these quiet little walks around my village which will stick out to me. I really like my village. It's very quiet, has a very small population, and I think the charm of the village is a bit of a paradox because on the one hand there's not much to do here. There are a few restaurants and one or two izakayas, and I mean if you looked hard enough there's stuff to do, but it's in contrast to a big city like Osaka or Tokyo or Kyoto. There's not much to do in comparison. So if you're someone who constantly needs stimulation, that can be a bit daunting, but if you're genuinely into quiet and peace and solitude, then there's an abundance of that here. And part of why I love living here is you don't come here with a checklist of things to do. Like if you go to Tokyo or Osaka, usually you have a checklist of things to do. But living in my village is a little bit like going to a botanical garden. Like back home in New Zealand, like in Queenstown, we have the botanical gardens in Queenstown, and in Hamilton we have the botanical gardens there. Unless you're a bit of a nerd for flowers, you don't usually walk in with a list of things to do. You just go in, vibe, and look at all the pretty colours, and when you feel ready, you just leave and move on to the next thing. And that's what it feels like to live in this village. It's just peaceful. You walk around and you vibe, and you just look around, and then you go back to your room when you feel like it. Anyway, so it was a lovely walk, and I remember just walking along the river and being kind of transfixed by the water. And I always do get transfixed by the river, and just I could watch the running water for a long, long time. And it reminds me of how a lot of cultures, they always layer deities onto natural phenomena, like here in Japan, the mountains and the water and the streams and the rivers are believed to have kami, living beings in them. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of Maori mythology, where there's a similar belief where nature, trees, forests, rivers, lakes have deities living in them or guarding them. Like the most famous example being the Taniwha. And so I find it really interesting how these cultures can intersect like this. And watching the river, it kind of makes me wonder how these cultures kind of meet in the middle, even though they're so distinct. And I think just watching the river, it reminds you on a very high level of the constant flow of time, the constant flow of life, how every moment is like water in a river. It's just running and flowing and going and non-stop, and time flows a little bit like that. And it just reminds you on a high level that life is just always going and always running and always trucking along. Maybe that's why nature in a lot of cultures have deities in them. Maybe it's a symbolic reference to the fact that nature, if you look hard enough into nature, it reveals to you higher principles about life. Yeah. Anyway, just some thoughts. I'm going to go back into my room and drink some alcohol. Bye!